Alright guys, I wasn't sure I was going to do this again, but the last one seemed appreciated, so here's another breakdown of my AQ paths for this variation. So I take Acid Wash, and then the Degen track, and then Aspect of Nightmares. Because of Acid Wash, I think I bring Voodoo every single day, and I also bring Apocalypse. So last time I showed Parry Curse and talked a little bit about how to deal with that, which is mostly take block damage and plan which fights you take when strategically. The global for this day right here is Turn the Tide, which we run third in the overall order. It is by far my least favorite global, but it is it has less punishing interactions to just play around it than Parry Curse and Cascading Failure do, so we run it third. For those of you who are not familiar, this is the one where only one of your specials works at any given time, and if you use a special that's not the one called out by the buff or by the node, then you have minus 100% ability accuracy and minus 90% attack for that special. Not really helpful. You can also notice just there, we have Foresight up, which I find very worth it because it allows Voodoo to get off special ones that look like that. 2600 poison damage a tick on Acid Wash is extremely helpful. So the way to play around Turn the Tide is you have to, if you want to control it, you have to switch up your combo enders. But it's important to note that while to get that fourth light attack to count as a combo ender, you do have to do a full 5-hit combo. That's not true for the medium combo ender. A medium combo does work to swap the special if your previous one was a light. There's honestly a fair amount of thinking involved in keeping track of, well, what did I end my last combo on? Is this next thing going to change the global, or is it going to change the special, or is it not? That's just something you have to get used to, honestly. But if you know that a medium works, then you have a bit more power. So right there, you saw me going for a backdraft light with Apocalypse. Hood didn't take the bait, but I will do that throughout this. Not because I think that you need Foresight. These three champions, even as 5 stars, do have the damage to clear these fights. But it's just so rewarding to get a special off with Apocalypse that does, almost double. See, there we go. I changed it. We have Foresight up. Look how much direct damage that is. That's just so much fun. So another thing to address in these fights, especially the ones with Voodoo, is that I am running 5 out of 5 points in Mystic Dispersion. I've talked before about how I think that that is worth it, even with the possibility of having, quote, too much power. And Voodoo in particular is one of those where you're most likely to have too much power. And also on Acid Wash, you really want to have access to a special one because it's the only thing that allows you to do damage. Furthermore, on Turn the Tide, you also need to worry about when you throw his special one. That was just bad luck right there. I should have done one more hit, and then I would have had the even combo, or one fewer hits, and then that L1 would have actually started the fight. But this time we get it rolling. Point being that I think that this is probably the most difficult possible combination for Voodoo. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Iron Man is not one of those champs where you can safely backdraft medium him. I know this. I did it anyway. I got hit in the face. Sometimes that happens. That's the other reason that I really like using Voodoo, is just getting that 30% healing at the start of every fight in case I do something stupid like that. But I think this is probably about the most difficult way to play, or the most difficult situation to play Voodoo in, with all of these factors at once, but it still works. See, that time I did, because I missed those parries, that was completely on me. I did get pushed to the special 2 instead of the special 1. I did not enjoy that, but we're still okay here. Yeah, this Iron Man with his rotating buffs that also trigger Mystic Dispersion, not ideal. See, right here, what I'm doing is I intentionally threw that special 1, even though it is on the wrong special call out right now. The reason being because I have figured out that Voodoo's increased ability accuracy from his special actually applies after ability accuracy reduction from nodes, it seems. And so that means that even though he has minus 100% ability accuracy on his special 1, and even though it will do almost no damage, he does get back that like 50% chance for things to work. So that's why a few poisons still triggered. And even though they weren't doing a lot of damage, that's still worth it because that means that they trigger Acid Wash and then Iron Man was taking full damage. It also controls the healing from his Arc Overload Sig ability. So another showcase of that increased ability accuracy is here. This Red Skull has Mystic Ward. Nullify effects are not supposed to be reliable against him, but we're chunking him down. Not a problem. You could also use Apocalypse for this, and I have on some days. The class disadvantage is kind of annoying, but Apocalypse doesn't really have a problem with him. And I used to use Apocalypse before I figured out that Voodoo did get around Mystic Ward. It basically just requires you to be really on point with your parries and make sure you're keeping that poison refreshed. So I normally don't go out of my way to intercept Red Skull, just because if he blocks and you hit his block, with AQ attack values you can easily lose half your health. It's just really ugly. But Backdraft Lights are still worth it sometimes when you have Foresight up. There's a reason everybody loves Foresight. It just, the damage boost is so nice, rewarding you for something that is difficult to do if you're not playing Ghost. And the payoffs are there for almost every single champion. It's just really, it's a perfect global. Juke is pretty good, but Foresight is everyone's favorite for a good reason. So this Stark Spidey is really the primary reason I bring Venom, because it's annoying enough taking a degen fight without worrying about, oh, well, I need to back off and not be aggressive because, you know, this defender has a chance to evade. So it's really nice to just turn that off. Venom obviously has no utility for Acid Wash, and I could bring someone else who is overall stronger than this 5-star for my Section 3, but I just really appreciate the safety that Venom brings to that particular fight. So this Nightcrawler, sometimes I use Voodoo, sometimes I use Apocalypse. I go back and forth. If you use Apocalypse, he goes straight to 4 genetic code, which is nice in some ways, but it does mean that you're going to have to try a couple times to trigger that stance switch, because the first time you are going to stun him through his block, like you saw. This fight also showcases just how unreliable Apocalypse's evade counter is, because I've had Nightcrawler evade even without the buff from his special 1 when he's at 90% reduction. You just, until you hit 100, which you probably won't because of the way it works, you just have to assume they will evade if they can at all. But that's why we try and switch him. I go in there, I use the stun on block to refresh the debuffs because I felt like he was being even more defensive than he often is on the node, and I was a little worried I was going to lose them. We are taking damage here, but this is why I've been pumping as many Sig Stones into my 5-star Apocalypse as possible, because I know that I'm not going to take the next fight with him, and so when I finally do use him again, I know that he'll be healed up. So right there you see what I mean. I had finished the previous combo in a light attack, and then I used a double medium combo to switch over to the second special and get it off while I still had the debuffs from the first special up and do a ton of damage to finish out the fight. Those fights are manageable even if you don't do anything fancy, but obviously direct damage that you can't get around is annoying, and so I prefer to finish them as quickly as possible. Next up we have Voodoo against a poison immune champion with Strike Back and Vigor. Not his ideal matchup in a lot of ways, because you're not going to be getting any damage from that poison, and if you're not doing enough damage, then Vigor's just going to keep them at full. And one of the big complaints about Voodoo is his damage, especially against poison immunes. So what I'm showing here is that we're trying to get to those 3 Loa, and we're trying to get the L2 off with an even combo, because now we have Power Burn. Even if Strike Back had sent her red, because we are burning power on every single hit, she would not have had her special 3. Notice she is going to get Vigor one more time, because I didn't, back off adequately and get that parry. But it doesn't matter, because now we are set up. Now we don't have to worry about her power anymore. And now we're going to be doing enough damage just based off of being able to stay aggressive, which is the other problem of the Strike Back node, and our power burns, that this node is going to come down without much worry. See, here she even gets another Vigor off, and this is... Triggering Vigor twice in this fight is definitely not a good day for me. But it works, and you see that we still have 90 seconds left, and she's already under that last trigger with only 25% left. And yes, I did use Foresight, but so far I've only used it once. Voodoo is really amazing for this fight, and I've taken it with some other characters, and it's an incredibly annoying fight with almost anyone else. Really cannot wait for a 6-star Voodoo. His intercepts also feel pretty fluid with that staff. So next up we fast forward to my section 3 lane, which is, like I said, minor aspect of Nightmares. This Falcon starts with a bar of power, so he is literally just designed to chip down your health for the rest of the lane, because he will just keep throwing that special one into block if you let him. Voodoo heals on top of what he gets back from Aspect of Nightmares, so he's quite good for this lane, or for this fight in particular. But rather than go for the easy damage of the L1, notice I was also blocking to push him to his L2 because it does not have guaranteed block damage. I pushed to my L2 to get those power burns up, kind of like we had against Miss Marvel, because now he's not going to get another special one. And I just, Falcon, when he just throws that special one into block, even when you're blocking and trying to push him, he can be really annoying, and on later days, this particular Falcon can easily take off like 40% health just from his special's block damage. So I do my best to avoid that. Voodoo is really great for this. Even with, now we're only up to 2 power burns, we're still keeping him under control. And even if we only had 1, we probably would have been able to keep him below a bar of power until our next special 2, when we would have had it back under control from putting the Loas on him. That is a big reason why in power control matchups, though, I do like to stay in the even. I like to keep Brother Daniel on myself, throw specials with even combo, because while you can get both 3 power burn and 3 power drain up by throwing the L2 once with even combo and once with odd, once you throw it with odd, you then have a lower chance to apply Loas on each hit, and therefore you're less likely to get the power burn back the next time. And I think the most important thing with Voodoo is having those Loas. So here we have this Hulk, which is designed to back you up, but one thing to remember against these nodes that are unblockable for the first 6 seconds is that they're not unstoppable, so you can hit into their block to control the spacing. And I try to make a point of that. Another thing that you're seeing here, besides Foresight, is the somewhat underrated ability of Venom to heal. If the opponent has a buff, his L1 is actually really reliable. Obviously, it's not going to reliably outweigh suicides because it's, a little bit less than what recoil gives you every time he steals a buff, and it's not a guarantee. But if you run without suicides like I usually do, then he's actually an incredibly sustainable extra large offensive bleed champion. He's very fun for these lanes. Case in point, here we have a tech champ, so not only does he have class advantage, but Iron Patriot's going to be proccing buffs, and we're going to be healing back up even above the extra that we get from Aspect of Nightmares. A point on Aspect of Nightmares, there's been some discussion on Vega's Discord, where I spend some time, lately about masteries, and specifically about the recovery mastery and whether it's worth it if you're not running, quote, healers. But keep in mind, even if we weren't using Venom, recovery actually means that even though I'm degenning at the start of the fight for 25% of my health, I'm healing for more than that when it gives it back to me. Recovery boosts all healing. And so it means that nodes like this actually work to your advantage as long as you start above 25%. And then obviously for something like Voodoo's healing, for Venom's healing on his L1, for Apocalypse's healing from his Sig. Notice how this is AQ and I'm running 3 very sustainable champions. I highly recommend doing that if you can make it fit your paths. But recovery boosts all of it. Like, that was quite a surge at the beginning, and that was against the degen, so we're going to get more back once that finishes. Yeah, so he was below half health from that Nightcrawler fight. Now he's back up over 70%, even after taking some block hits. Cannot recommend recovery enough. In my opinion, it's one of those basics, like parry and stupefy, that you just need to have on every account. Review of Apocalypse again, of course. We're going to want to use those heavies wherever we can to refresh the debuffs so that the next time we throw a special, they're already up and we're doing even more damage. Yeah, I'm not gonna... Yep. So Turn the Tide worked against me when I was baiting out that special. I think what I was hoping would happen was that he would charge in, I would parry, and then from that parry and the first hit of the heavy that I was going to follow it with, I would have had 2 bars of power, and then I could have canceled the heavy into the L2 and thrown it with the full ability accuracy and damage, and that would have done a huge chunk. But that didn't happen, and then I got hit for, I don't remember exactly what reason. It happens. It's always better to play perfectly, of course, but Alliance Quest is not war. I personally do not, retreat to quiet rooms the same way I do for war. I do not avoid all distractions, and I'm glad that I don't feel I have to, because war is enough of that for me. I don't need Alliance Quest to be that same high-pressure environment. And so I actually really enjoy bringing teams that are forgiving for exactly that reason, so that if I make a mistake, I can just kind of shrug it off, as long as it's only one mistake, right? You start making more than one mistake per fight, and that's when you end up spending items. Apocalypse's L2 with all 4 debuffs up and Foresight is just a thing of beauty. So next up we have a fight I did not need to take, but I just wanted to, this is just a fun fight with Voodoo, right? I think I even mess up and get hit once or twice in here, honestly. But what I'm showing off here is how much fun it is to do that and get 24 poisons up at once. I mean, these Groots, anyone who's taken these minis knows that they are just designed as a bag of hit points. You see the 15-minute timer if you haven't taken map 7 before. But yeah, we chunked off a good 25% of his health with a single special one by turning 24 of those buffs into poison. And that was without Foresight. Voodoo is just really fun for Groot. That's a matchup everyone's known about for a long time, but since they put him in here to be an annoying sack of hit points, we might as well keep using it, right? See, this time it's only 4, but with Foresight, I actually don't know why only one of those worked. Maybe there's a note on this that I forgot about. I'm sure somebody will point it out to me in the comments. That one was fair, I just wasn't on the L1, so I had reduced ability accuracy. Yeah, don't quite get the rotating ones. You definitely do have to be extremely aware of your power when you play Voodoo, because in addition to Mystic Dispersion, he has that power gain that he gets off of his L3, because the L3 places a power siphon. You'll see that debuff here. But when that buff ends, either because it's shrugged, or because it expires, or because it is replaced by another L3, love taking combos to the face, Voodoo gains a power gain buff, as he just did there. And it's fairly significant, and you can have that power gain buff active at the same time as a power siphon debuff on the opponent, and so you're really taking quite a bit of power when that happens. And so yeah, you just have to be really on top of what buffs are about to expire, what special am I trying to throw, and above all else, I think that Mystics as a class, more than any other, require you to be in control of your combos. Because if you are still in that point of your Contest of Champions career where your default is to use 5-hit combos at all times, then you are not going to handle Mystic Dispersion very well. When you are dealing with champions with high power gain, you need to shorten your combos so that you maintain control of what exactly it is you're doing. Anyway, as with last time, hope this helped anyone considering paths or planning for map 7. I'll see you guys next time.